getting into this ute and trying to go through and solve those last few problems. And one of them is the shifter, and one of them is the communication to the scan tool. So when I was wiring the ECU, what I did is I just sort of matched colours on the old plug. So down here. So I took the old plug and I looked at the colours and I just matched them up, poked them in the holes. And I wasn't getting communications with the engine ECU, though the temp gauge worked. So I knew that side of things was working. So I actually got in today and I've traced it from the diagnostic plug to the ECU. They were all good. And I tried on a different communication protocol. So I used OBD2 on my scanner instead of using generic Toyota. And that worked. So it does look like I got that bit correct. So I'm happy about that. And then Jason has fitted the 6-speed shifter. One with this little cover on. Got this little lead here. And actually looking at the shifters, the connectors were the same. We'll have a look here. Hopefully we can see this okay. So I've got this connector and this connector. Now this one's got the light wires. Toyota's pretty common. Green was the light, or it might be, it's just a straight green. And white, black is an earth. So that's on the other shifters located down here, but this one's got the selectors for the Tiptronic. And then this plug, it's down here. See that there? There it is. And I got in and I wrote myself some diagrams. So I did the 6-speed. So that's GS 430, LS 430. And I checked the wiring. There's a couple of differences. One's got a key switch, one doesn't. And there's colour differences. And then I did the Hilux one. And the base Hilux, the main inputs are the same as the GS and the LS 430. So that would actually plug in. But the Hilux one's got the gear selector inputs for the 5-speed, for the shifty. And it's got outputs up in here for the D and for the 2L. So that solved the mystery for me on why my D wasn't working on the dash. The drive light, guys, not the other D, okay? The drive light. And I got my test light out. And test light. And once I actually checked that it wasn't the black red wire, it was just the straight black wire, I found I had ignition in here just fine. It's the keys are, oh, the key's on. But going to the grey wire, which is meant to be accessory, down here, I'm getting nothing. Interesting enough, I don't seem to have a radio either. Alright, so I'm just going to check that. I reckon it's going to be a fuse. Hopefully it's going to be a fuse in that fuse box. So then I'm going to go through and I'm going to alter this wiring a little bit, do some repairs, put the stuff in I need, take the stuff in I don't need. These pins in here are populated. I do not know whether those populated pins actually go to something in this unit, which this is the shift lock ECU. So in Toyota it refers to shift lock. Interesting enough, the other switch on the front is the transmission control switch, which is both located in the shifter inside the cabin. And there's another switch on the side of the transmission, which is it's actually the gear indicator switch and the neutral start switch, or the start inhibit switch. And guys get these confused. Alright, I'm going to try and get a radio working, and I bet you that'll help my shifter work. And then I'm going to wire that stuff up. I actually repair it, make a couple of changes, pretty much plug it back in like it should have been factory, and it would have worked. How's this? I'm spending all this time fixing this vehicle, and a lot of what I'm doing is putting it back to standard. Yeah. It's going to work though, and it's going to come up good. and I'm nearly there. I'm nearly there. Ah, problem solved. Oh, look. I don't have to push the release button. I can just put my foot on the brake and either shift it. Now works. We still have a radio, but we have a problem, and I've been chasing this problem that intermittently this vehicle won't start. And so I've just put it back together and watch. It's a no-go. I have checked the codes in the ECU, and if you crank them long enough when not starting, they will throw a crankshaft position code, so it had one of those. I still don't think it's a crankshaft position problem. I think it's a fuel problem. And we have tested I've tested the power supply to the fuel pump. There's an earth over there that had been cut into, so I'm going to repair that. So that's on my list of things to do. But at the moment I've just twisted it together, but it seems to be working, and I've got power going to the fuel pump. But I can't hear the fuel pump. So I think I'm going to jump some voltage to the fuel pump directly and see if I can hear it. I suspect this has got the stock V6 pump in it, and I suspect it's not up to the job of that V8. See if I'm right. I could be completely wrong on this one. Otherwise there could be a very small wiring issue in there somewhere. I thought it was the alarm too. I had a consideration, but of course that's not here anymore. And this is the joys of working on a vehicle that someone else has attacked and done so much to, that I've had to do heaps to try and go through and fix it. And if I miss one little thing that's critical, then it doesn't start and it's on me. And I thought I had it. Yeah, so I've got to pull some strength together and get in and fix it. All right. Okay, I was right. So we go down here. So there's a brake pedal. If there's a clutch pedal here, it's a manual. This is an auto, so it doesn't have a clutch pedal. And we go up in here. Here's the fuel pump plugs. So if I go into that one there, I go back here, and I crank it and hold it at the same time. Now it fired, and it's because I have actually been jumping it. So let's have a look. We've got the cranking. The voltage is down quite a lot. We've got a lot of voltage draw from the starter motor at the moment because that battery is getting low. I've been cranking it quite a lot. So what I've done is I took the fuel pump side here, up to the cigarette lighter. Brown wire is the earth, black wire is the positive. I've got voltage. And I can hear a fuel pump running now. And it'll start. This is the resistor. It isn't bolted down, but that shouldn't affect it. So my goal now is to work out why my fuel pump doesn't fire up on the factory fuel pump wiring. Whether it's just a voltage drop, whether there's a bad connection on the relay is triggering, so it's not ECU. And I knew it wasn't ECU because the check light would come on the dash, knowing that the ECU or power supplies to the ECU. Or whether it's the high speed side, whether it's not bypassing the resistor circuit, so it's not triggering the high speed relay, so we still could have an issue there. More diagnosis for me, but I'm in the right place and the vehicle still runs. The voltage going to the fuel pump, because it's got that resistor in it. If I bring the revs up, watch this. See, it jumps up to 13 volts. It's meant to do that. Well, watch this. Oh, it didn't do it. Give me a few goes. See, intermittently it drops to 0 volts and the engine doesn't run very well. So we're in the right place. Definitely a problem in that fuel pump circuit somewhere. Looks like it's wiring. Looks like I'll have to keep searching. I'm definitely going to repair that earth, but whether it's just a bad connection or a faulty relay, what I can do is I'll set up some test gear to test the output signal from the ECU. And what's really interesting is it does seem to kill both circuits at the same time. I'll check some live data in that scan tool as well. I've done a few drives in this vehicle, and I was mainly driving it to check specific things. I'm now driving it as a proper test drive, and it is a dog. The speedo is only 10 k's out, so that's not bad. Oh, there's roadworks up here. I'm gonna have to turn around. When I was sitting in the shed checking for the fuel pump issue, I noted the oxygen sensor trims, and they were all over the place. It feels like it's got a misfire in there. The other thing that we see quite a lot of is dirty airflow meters, especially in this sort of situation where it's been worked on, it's been driven in and out of the workshop. So I will check that as well. It actually, if the fuel pump control stays running and keeps voltage to the fuel pump, it actually kicks down and cranks along pretty well. And sometimes just giving them a test drive can help greatly as well. Clearing up the spark plugs, especially when they've been sitting in a workshop, again driving in and out, lots of idling. But I do have a speedo, I do have a tacho, and the tacho seemed reasonably accurate, although I can't have the scan tool plugged in and the OBD2 output box or signal modifying box in at the same time. So I think I might wire a second OBD2 port to it so I can have both of them. It's also whisper quiet and quite restrictive in the exhaust. So there's some power left on the table right there by putting a better exhaust on it. And what's worse is now the fuel pump isn't faulting. The fuel pump wiring isn't faulting, so it's very hard to find it when it isn't playing up. and it's been working. It runs the speedo, it runs the tacho, but it is a little bit wrong. 10k's wrong on the speedo, and no matter what I do, I can't get it right. So it's leaving, it's coming out, this one's going in. 600 mils? Oh no, 750 mils, 90 litres an hour. That'll be why it loads up really bad uphill. I've got the spark plugs out. I think this one's our problem. Something going on cylinder 6. This side looks okay. So this is what I'd expect the spark plugs to look like. Alright, we might test the coils too. The tune-up side of things went well, and it drives heaps nicer. A set of spark plugs and a coil pack was replaced, or a coil was replaced. Really could do with a fuel pump, but it's just enough to do what we need to do. It does start leaning out a little bit at the top end with the pump that's in it. My next check is going to be air conditioning. So I've already changed to the air conditioning pump to an early model 1UZ pump. And down in here's the pressure relief valve, or the pressure cut-off valve, or cut-off switch. Okay, this one is minimum pressure, so if it doesn't get sufficient pressure, it cuts off. So I bridge that, and I've popped into the trigger to the pump, and so the factory ECU is still controlling the AC. I wired in the RPM signal, so the crank signal is shared between both ECUs. So the factory ECU knows how fast the engine's going, so hopefully when I push the AC button, the light will light up. And as a bonus, the fan's also clicking on, as I've already gone through and I've put a changeover relay in the front fuse box to control the fan. So that circuit is all working, done, ready to get regassed. That is all the main stuff done. I calibrated the speedo, calibrated the tacho with the new box fitted. I've been checking the fuel pump circuit, and I just tightened up a couple of terminals in the changeover relay, or the secondary speed control, fuel pump speed control relay. And I'm still monitoring whether it plays up. It started fine this morning. It's just, you just hit the button, boom, it goes. I think it really needs the air conditioning done next, and we'll call it pretty good. I haven't really looked at cruise control. We've got cruise control as well. Proper test drive time. Look, it's looking like a ute again. Still got the OBD2 hanging out. I'm not really happy with the shifter mounting. We need to move that over. But generally, it's pretty good. And you'll notice I'm in the neutral, the manual mode. Woohoo, it's not shifting. And it's shifting. Woohoo! That works too. Oh, that's a relief. It's working. Oh, I'm happy about that. it has been a mission, but we're really at the pointy end of the stick. It really could do with a fuel pump. It does start leading out a little bit when you're really hard up at climbing like a big hill under a lot of load, but for normal driving it actually drives pretty nice. I even managed to get the reverse camera going, which is up in the rear vision mirror, so I'm pretty happy about that as well. So pretty shortly it's off to the air conditioning shop. I've already tested the air conditioning parameters and it's turning the pump on, so I'm happy about that as well, and it's looking like it's really close. Oh, there's another little piece under the bonnet I want to change with the alternator loom, but certainly nothing big left on the list. From here it will need drive shaft hoops. That wasn't on our list of jobs to do. It does need drive shaft hoops for a certification, and I also need to tick up on the brakes. These things aren't the greatest in the brakes. Wheel alignment, warrant fitness check, that sort of stuff. Oh, there it is. There's that problem again. The fault with the fuel pump. And now it's not there. What's up, dog? There's a problem with that fuel pump. And there's that little problem with the fuel pump every now and again. So I'm going to put some test gear in and check what's going on there. I thought I'd got it with that fuel pump relay under the bonnet, or under the hood. Yeah, it's pretty normal to have an accelerator pedal on the engine brake. You notice the fuse box, relay box is upside down. I've been chasing fuel pump triggering issues. I've actually done another video on that. I'm looking to change the integrated relay, which is in here. I've actually just put in a temporary switch into the back of the cigarette lighter here, so I can turn the fuel pump on and off. It turns on the key effectively, which I don't like. So no fuel pump there, fuel pump there, no fuel pump. And if we pop down under here, I've got it just bridged in. You can see it's just bridged in at the moment. So I can actually, oh, it's a bit dark, but we can take that out. I can then pop it back together on the normal circuits. And I've done that for diagnosis purposes only. I also built the extended harness for the pedal. I always wire these in anyway with a pedal plug, my standard pedal plug. And I'm going to reflash the ECU. That ECU could do with a bit of an update. We've had a few developments lately, so I'm going to get the old updating thing happening and make it a bit better. Reflash time. I've got my laptop. I've got an annoying beep. We'll turn the key on. So I've connected into the ECU OBD2. Of course, this vehicle's got the OBD2 over here, but because of the matching protocols, or the clashing pins that are used for the vehicle, we've wired in one for just the engine and transmission. I got my PCM flash set up here. I got my cable down there, and I'm going to fire some tunes in. This one doesn't have a power button. CAN bust. The vehicle doesn't have a power button. I could wire one in, put an extra box in, and then add the 2 settings. But at this stage, what I'm doing is I'm going to do like a hybrid tune. So it's going to be not as harsh as like our full send tune all the time, but it's not going to be as mellow as the normal drive tune that we run. And it should work really well because this engine just, it feels a little bit lackluster as it is. Goes good, smooth, but it wants a little bit more, which it's about to get. So Jason and I are having one of our final test drives. It's making his car legal day. So we're taking the car that isn't warranted or registered. But we're allowed to actually drive a car to and from a repair facility. And we actually got to drive it to test it to see if it's good to be legal on the road. And we know that it's safe. And it drives okay. Probably could do with a little bit more pep off the bottom. But it's quite smooth. I found the little, I thought the switch down here was for the, was just for the reverse camera. It turns out it was for the reverse beeper. And pretty much everything except for the aircon is working like it should.
Oh, does the aircon not work?
Yeah, the aircon works. Oh, sorry, not aircon. The cruise control.
Oh.
Yeah, I'd hate. Oh, we haven't got it. I haven't actually showed the aircon. Oh, when I get home, I'll show the aircon because they did a really nice job with the aircon. And you know what? When they finished and they put everything together, it just worked. And fan works, and electrically it all just worked. So I was pretty happy with that. They did a nice job. It's about done on the Hilux. Integration relay was changed. I got a video on changing the integration relay and on the fuel pump circuit diagnosis. This has also been over to the aircon man. You see there's some new aircon lines there and here. A new condenser. They made some new lines, and that pump down there, there's some new lines down there to that pump, and the air conditioning's all working, so that's lovely as well. I'm pretty much done under here. It's ready to go home. I'm wrapping it up and calling it done. No, cruise control doesn't work. That hasn't been integrated into the 3UZ ECU. The speed camera, the speedo is pretty accurate, and see right over there we have these things called speed cameras, and that is actually a real prick of a place to sit, eh?
Yeah.
Like, so it's at the bottom of a big decel area.
Maybe get stuck.
Yeah. It's kind of ironic because that intersection is a very dangerous intersection. There's a lot of crashes, so it does slow people down hopefully, but it's still a prick after a big decel area to have a speed camera. Where naturally vehicles are going to just coast, even coasting are going to possibly increase speed a little bit. So as you can see, temp gauge works. Beauty. You'll be surprised how many of these utes come in and the temperature gauges don't work. Because I've done conversions and they don't know how to make it work. So just when you take off, probably just a weeny bit flat than compared to what I'd like. You kick it down and it accelerates really well. And there's our 100k cruise speed and cruise RPM, 100k cruise speed, cruise RPM. That is beautiful. So from that point of view, it's actually really, really nice ute to drive. Just cruising, really low RPM, just ticking along. It should get pretty good economy. Because of that 6-speed, plenty of gear ratios in there. So it's climbing up this bit of a rise, we're on a bit of a hill here. It's just coming up beautiful. So I'm pretty much done on this. The fuel pump hasn't faulted in the few test drives I've just done, so it's ready to go back to the customer.